in general, when you're learning to code, the number one thing that you need to decide is, what do I want to build? And that's, so many people start with the language first and say, well, I'm going to learn the easiest language, or the syntax is beautiful, but it doesn't lead to a result of like what you're trying to do. Because what you want to do is, once you figure out what I want to build, then the stacks become a lot smaller and the languages come a lot smaller from you to choose from, because what you want to choose from is the thing that is in demand. So I want to pick what I want to build. Hopefully I want to build things that everyone else wants to build. Second, I want to pick a stack that everyone's building it with. I want to pick what's in demand right now today, and not necessarily what's in demand in the future.
So don't choose Clojure, right? Just because it makes the average high of 120,000. Clojure's probably not the one to go with, or Erlang,
exactly.
not the ones to go with.
Yeah, and when you see most loved language, okay, or most popular language, and it says Rust at the top, you think automatically, I need to learn Rust. Well, you need to really delve into that. Like, what do people use Rust for, and how many people are actually using Rust? And so it is smaller than C#. So it just is. I mean, like, there's a lot more audience out there for C# devs than there are for Rust devs. Doesn't mean that you can't make a living doing it, but just realize these people that are making a living in Rust today probably have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years of experience. They're not juniors breaking in and then their first job was with Rust. That's probably far and few between. So because of the types of problems Rust is targeted towards, lends itself to like medium to senior software engineers, and they're building more complex things because of they're using Rust for that. So when we build web development, we look at web development as the most used thing on the market, and you're learning, that's what you should pick. Now, once we pick web development, then we can figure out how we're going to build this. And I just showed you, there's the Node crowd, and then there's pretty much the ASP.NET crowd. There's 2 of those in there, and you can throw in Spring MVC with Java. So those are the 3 primary ways that we're going to break in to do this. Now, we've picked C# because the enterprise uses C#, and there's a lot of enterprise big corporate jobs out there, as well as small company jobs out there. And then it's widely used across a lot of things. So you can use C# everywhere. You can use it in the desktop. You can transition to Unity. You can transition those things. But if you start out with web dev, it'll serve you well. And then the picture is a lot stronger than just what the Stack Overflow metrics say. When you start really looking at those metrics, you're like, man, it's a lot bigger than we think.
Yep.
The other reason we pick C# is because it's backed by Microsoft. So who's behind Node.js? Who's behind React? Who's behind those things? And Microsoft is going to push this forward because they're vested in the development community at large. And it's a really good move for you to pick that. But you can pick anything once you pick what you want to build. Now, if you pick mobile, you got to pick different stacks. You got to pick a cross-platform tool like React Native or Dart, or hopefully in the near future it'll be Maui. They'll get that released and get it out there. And it's not going to be Swift. If you notice, if you look through there, that's not listed on any of those things, which I found surprising. And that's because people are still trying to build Android and Apple, and they don't want to silo 2 teams to build a mobile app. Also notice that mobile app development was smaller.
Yeah, definitely felt smaller this year than it ever has.
Yeah. Right. So I don't know what's driving that. So that tells you if you're trying to break in, web development is still dominant. The only other thing you have left is like desktop embedded, like if you're working on a set-box TV or some kind of embedded device, those Adrenos, those are different stacks as well. And then you have data science, which I think data science is really kind of like really large too. So if you want to go in data science, obviously the only choice is Python. I mean, that's the only one you pick.
Right. If
you're looking in web dev, I think there's other choices other than Python and web development for you to break in with. But you can learn these things. And then the other big hitter is PHP. When we look into PHP, we're like, you've got to understand that PHP is largely driven by WordPress development. If you want to build WordPress sites, learn PHP, and that's okay. You can make a living doing that. It's probably easier to break in as a WordPress dev than it is with ASP.NET MVC dev, just because of the amount of things that you need to know. I think this is a lower bar to entry.
I'll also say the money's lower too, though.
The money's lower.
The PHP statistic is brought down, I guarantee you, by WordPress devs.
Yeah, right. Now, are there people out there making big money with PHP? 100% they are.
Yeah. Of course there are. That like the guy we were talking about, the guy with the Lambo earlier. We're talking about that.
Exactly.
The PHP guy with the Lambo, as you said, it wasn't because he knows PHP. It's whatever he did with it. It's what he built with it. What he's done with his
company. His company is based on PHP.
It could have been based on any.
Yeah, I know guys that own companies they're mega wealthy, and their whole company. I know a guy that runs a marketing company. The whole thing's built on PHP. That's great. That doesn't mean that you can break in with PHP or that you're going to drive a Lambo just by learning PHP. I can promise you.
Right.
But that's because you get PHP. You don't get sponsored by Lamborghini and they give you a Lambo.
Maybe you do. Maybe that's part of the deal.
Maybe you do. Maybe that's how you do it on $43K a month. It's a year.
Well, so it's the only way you can do it.
Someone has to give me that Lambo.
You got to get given it exactly because you're not buying it.
Yeah. So. But anyway, so, and again, what you want to think about is how do I get to 100K? Because like 100K is that magical level of like, okay, I've made it. That's a lot of money. 90% of people in the US don't make that kind of cash on an individual income basis. They got to, get married or whatever they do. So like that is where it's at. So how do we get there? And so the first thing you do is pick what you want to build, and which we think, you're asking us and you want our opinion, is web development. That's it.
Yep.
You need to
we know lots and lots and lots of web devs that make six figures.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a proven market, it's a big market, it's the way to go. So once you've done that, then you have to decide, you have to learn to code, right? If you don't know how to code. So what are the ways you can learn to code?
3 ways to do it. And we talk about this a lot, and like obviously we're going to full disclosure here, we run a coding boot camp, so we're biased towards boot camps. We do have a bias. But I can tell you that the hate that boot camps receive isn't always on the up and up. There's a lot of people out there that want to see boot camps not succeed, so they paint these pictures of boot camps. Now, are all boot camps created equal? No. There are some bad boot camps out there, and there's some great ones like Coder Foundry. Like we think we're great, right. But like, as I laugh, but like seriously, I think
but we think we're not in the same category as some of the boot camps for sure. Yeah. Some of them have given us a bad name, and it sucks to be grouped with companies that have done people wrong. Like it's bad.
There's a couple of things out there, and you also can learn to code on your own, which I do believe. Like I think stats have shown like 60% of all people that know how to code were self-taught.
And we think it's higher than that. Too, right?
It's higher than that. I think it's closer to 95. Let's say you went to college and you learned some Java in college a little bit, and now you're doing something completely different in your career. You had to teach that to yourself. And that's why I think it's really what everyone knows today they've learned on their own as you go through your career. But if you're talking about just breaking in initially, did someone teach me how to code? You could do that on your own. We do think that takes a little longer to do. And then it's also the percentage of failure is super high in that part of it.
You've got to have a really, really high grit factor. Yeah. You've got to be really self-motivated. And most people aren't. It's just the way that it is. But some people also don't even recognize that they aren't. And they feel like they are. They go into it and then they fail and don't realize that they could have pushed through.
Yeah.
They didn't.
So here's my ultimate path to it. So I don't think there's any one way to do this.
Right.
I haven't talked about universities yet. University to me doesn't teach the vocation of getting a software development job.
Yeah. Computer science is not the same as being a web developer. Right. They're two different things.
Right. And they typically don't teach what's in demand at university because they get things licensed or whatever. Now, is there value to CS degrees? Yes. Okay. If you want to learn about those things, there is definite value there, but it's well over $100,000 in the U.S. to get a 4-year CS degree.
Yeah, and 4 years.
Now, and if you're taking this totally online, then I think that even becomes worse for me. So if you're going to the purely online degrees from CS degrees, I think those are a mistake because you never get to talk to anyone. And I've talked to a lot of people about like I've never met a professor ever and you name these online schools. Wow. So I'm not saying it's scammy and anyone can learn from a video and anyone can do that. Yeah. But really what you need to do is you need to find someone that can help you answer your questions and teacher, coach, mentor. And that's where we fall. We fall right in the middle. Now, Here's what I tell a lot of students though. The first thing you should do when learning to code is take an online course.
Yeah.
Even if you're coming to Coder Foundry.
Yeah.
The first thing you need to do is like, do you like this? Can you understand it? Do you have the aptitude for it? Do you find it fun? Do you find it? And so you shouldn't go and just sign up. Our next boot camp starts July 5th. You shouldn't call us on July 4th and go, hey, I want to sign up. I just decided to do this. And we say, have you done anything? No, That's a mistake for you.
There's reasons we ask those questions. Like literally one of our entry questions is, what have you done so far? And the answer shouldn't be like, I just lost my job last week and I saw a commercial for you and I heard that you can make a lot of money. That's a giant red flag for us. That's bad.
And so one of the things that we say here at Coder Foundry is we don't do what's easy, we do what's necessary. So it's what we have to do to break in the industry isn't necessarily easy, but it's what's necessary. So we feel like the path to doing this is difficult, whatever path you take. So you can go the free route. It's going to take you a year if you're motivated. You can go the boot camp route like at Coder Foundry, and I would say find a reputable boot camp, one that's been out here for 6 to 10 years, and then look into like, what am I going to learn? And then what am I going to have to show when I exit? And so that's how you really interview and exit. What are we building? What am I building it on? And those kind of things. And
but
then
your time to market there. But your time to market there is
3 months,
it's
3
months to 6. Well, it's 3 months for the course, right? We tend to say 3 to 6 months, right? Because it's like so we have people straight out of the boot camp who do get a job, right? There's people who get a job before the boot camp's even. But I would say on average, it's 3 to 6 months, right? Because some people take longer. And some people just quit, like they just do. They do the whole thing and then just quit like 3 months afterwards because like, it's never going to work for me. Like, no, you got to have a little bit of grit.
They get one rejection and then they're done. And so we try to coach them through those kind of things. And this is why it's so important to have a teacher and a coach and a mentor, because when you do go and you go interview the first time and like you get blown out of the water and you're feeling dumb, stupid, failure, or whatever, you can call into your mentor and go like, hey man, listen, everyone,
you got to bounce back,
dude. Like you got to bounce back right now. Here's what you do. What did they ask you? Did you learn from that experience? And those kind of things. And that's where it keeps you motivated to get you in. No, very few people interview once and get a job first right out of the way. Some do, but as you say, in weight loss and everything, results aren't typical. So like we never say that you're going to interview once. And that's all you need to do.
I also think it can be a problem for people who historically are switching jobs, have always been great at what they do. They've always interviewed once and always get a job for the last 4 positions they've done. Now they're switching careers. They come to this new thing and it's like, and they don't get that same kind of feedback. Therefore, they feel bad about that. They don't get that first gig. Now they're going to have to interview 20 times to get the gig. And now that makes them feel silly based on their historical record. But they have to realize it is new. You are changing. It is something different.
It's something different. And then it's the other thing too that people don't understand is that just learning to code isn't just learning to get the job. It's a 10-year, 20-year learning cycle. Like learning is your job, like learning the new things that come down the pipe. And we talk a little bit about future catching things coming down the pipe like Blazor and those kind of things. But those are the things that you do as a professional developer to stay relevant. Like one of the comments on YouTube this morning was like, you're not a programmer if you're coding web. All you're doing is building websites and web pages.
I think it was like web
and
pages.
Clearly, he doesn't understand what a web application is. Like, in other words, like, well, you got to code it. I mean, that's how they work. I mean, like, we're just basically have changed the front end to HTML, CSS versus web forms, or something else. Some kind of
maybe he's used Squarespace before, drag and drop, and he thinks that's what we're talking about. I mean,
that's not what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking about. This is not the same thing.
Yeah. So. But however you learn, I think that you need to think about a 1-year cycle for I'm on my own, a 3 to 6 month cycle with a reputable boot camp, and then a 4-year cycle with university. And we feel like inside the cost benefit analysis, that boot camps are probably in the sweet spot if you get a reputable one. Now, if you get a bad one, okay, it's not the greatest. Here's what I think you can do if you can overcome a bad boot camp. Is make sure that you're building things and take the things that you did learn and continue to build things, and you can turn that into a positive experience.
Now, a lot of people, something for sure.
Yeah. So a lot of people, we get asked this all the time. What's my percentage of finding a job? In other words, like boot camps are held to the standard where if you're not 90%, you're a scam, and no one asks that of a college.
Well, like, because we know college is very, very, very low. It's very low.
If you study something in college, it's like 90% likely that you'll get a job doing something else.
Right.
And so they pitch it where like, well, it's just the act of learning, or it's like it shows that you can learn things, therefore people will hire you. So like they're not held to near the standard, because the standards are right a low, way below 30%. So and then learn on your own while free, it's probably even lower than that. The people that truly succeed and do that.
I mean, you can look at the people who finish a Udemy course. It's very, very low. It's very,
very low. And so we're not saying that you don't have a shot in those. You can, absolutely. People go to 4 years CS degrees, they come out and they get software jobs, but I think still, even coming out 4 years, you're going to have to build something to show it when you get in, because here at Coder Foundry, what we're doing is building a portfolio of multiple projects that you can show to give you a better chance when you interview. So you got to know what you're building, and then make sure that you come out of whatever you're learning building something that you can show, whether you know it. And we think in the sweet spot is you get the teacher, the coach, and the mentor at a boot camp. If they're there in person, that's what you want. So like at Coder Foundry, we're with you 40 hours a week. If they're not there the majority of the time and you're just watching videos, then maybe you could save your money at that boot camp and go to a Udemy course, because it's essentially the same thing, and if you go to a 4-year CS degree, and I'm not going to name them, but I've talked to them, and like it's kind of crazy. You watch videos and you do the coursework, and sometimes they purchase the course in its entirety, and it's not really affiliated with the university. It's like a third party that has licensed into the university. So you can go to the University of Chapel Hill boot camp, but just know that Chapel Hill didn't build the curriculum. It's not taught by the computer science people. It's taught by a third party. And so, your mileage may vary there. Yep. So that's kind of what we think. I think that boot camps gives you a great opportunity to learn, but you can break in with all of them. Just know what your time commitment is and the cost associated with all of those.
I think that's it. You've got to weigh up exactly how much time you're willing to spend and how much money are you willing to spend. We think let's call it the Gandalf spot is the boot camp. It's middle range in terms of money. Although I call it middle range, it's like when we're talking about these three things, we're talking about maybe if you're learning yourself, you're going to spend a couple $100s on Udemy courses. Maybe you're going to say you're not. You're going to spend nothing on YouTube, right? And that's okay.
Right.
A boot camp's going to cost you anywhere from 15 to 30 these days. Like they keep going up. We're still around the 15 mark. And then college being 100,000 plus. So compared to college, it's like very, very cheap. Compared to self-study and free. You could throw
community college in there, and community college could get less expensive if you went the vocation, 2-year vocation program certificate route.
But completion of those courses too, community college completion rates are like 10%.
Low.
They're low. They're very low.
Yeah. But it's got a little low price there. I mean, so it's a little cheaper depending on what state you're in. And then at the end of the day, you still got to build something. So make sure that you go build something that you can show. And that's how you break in. So that's how you learn to code. Hopefully any questions on that, or you can pop them up there, Kevin. We can go to the next thing real quick here.
So I'm queuing up some questions. We'll do those here in a second.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's talk about, so now you've learned to code. What we've talked about this a lot in the past, but the tips around your first position. Remember, we're talking about the road to 100K, right? We're talking about the wise man's road to 100K.
Yeah, and I sat in Twitter Spaces and had to bite my tongue a lot because I understand where people are coming from. I totally get it. Yeah. But I've heard people saying, I went to my boot camp and I turned down my first 6 offers because those fits weren't right for me, and I waited around for the perfect fit. And now I'm making, $96,000 exiting the boot camp, 9 months after graduation. What I'm telling you is it's not a myth, but it's an exception to the rule. Yeah. Typically, when someone says they're making $96,000 to $100,000 straight out of a boot camp or university or whatever, they're bringing something to the table, either in skill background or they already know something about the company that they're being there. Maybe they interned there or just something like that. They're a known commodity at this company. Yeah. I'm not saying that everyone works for their rich uncle, but I'm just saying that there's something else that happens there that typically in the U.S., and this could be different in New York and California. So let's just talk about everywhere else except for those 2 states. All right. That's going to be somewhere in the 60s range coming out of a boot camp. And I would say that even when we're looking at juniors for 1 to 2 years experience and what they're paying It's going to be the same for the college guy. It's going to be the same for the self-taught person. That's kind of what you're going to get coming out if you can qualify for some of these positions. So I think mainly you need to think about like taking the first opportunity that you get. Do not wait around for the perfect opportunity. And this is what I tell every student. This first job is not going to be your last job. And the first job isn't about the pay. It's about the experience. So what we want you to do is build 1 year of experience, and you'll probably never have to look for a job ever again, where recruiters will just pretty much call you every week. Once
so much easier after the initial one.
Yeah. And if you got 3 to 5 experience, man, and we could just parade developers on here. And they're like, yeah, I get 3 recruiter calls a week. I get mad at them. I ghost them. I treat them terribly. They still call me, like I'm tired of listening to their pitches, but I think that that's what you need to do. So the first one's for the experience, not for the money, not for the fit, not for any of that. You just need to get a job to get experience and then move after that. If you end up working for someone that beats you with a stick, which is illegal in the US, but like, let's say that you get there and it's the worst boss ever, you just move on. A lot of people talk about their mental health or whatever, and just say I know those things exist, but at the same time, you can't allow that first experience to color your perception of the entire industry forever and just walk away and quit. You spent too much time doing this, and you can just simply leave. That is why you became a developer in the first place. If you go back and think about it, why is it? Mobility is number one, cash is number two. So a lot of people say, I would rather make less if I could just leave when I wanted versus I've got golden handcuffs here. Yes, I make a lot of money, but he treats me like a slave, and therefore I can't leave. I can't leave because I make too much money. Where programmers are highly mobile and highly paid. And that's why everyone wants to get in this industry. You can leave. You don't need that employer. You're never stuck in a bad job. So I've seen so many people forgo the first offer because they think they can get a better offer. And then their search lengthens by a lot. And sometimes they don't break in.
Sometimes never.
Because you don't stay committed to your craft. And that search goes from 3 to 6 months. Now it's 9, it's 12. And I've seen people from a recent cohort turn down 2 offers, Kevin. It's amazing that they turn down these offers that we get them for various reasons. And so the first job, and I wrote this in the book, Breaking the Code, is take the first job. I mean, just take the first one. Experience is more valuable than the money, the location, the pay, or whatever. And I would say even relocate for the first job, because once you get the first job, then you can pick your city, your state, where you want to live and what you want to work on, because you have more options. It's easier to look for a job when you have one than it is when you're desperate and trying to find something. So just make sure you take the first job, because we don't know what the future holds. And so we can't tell you where the market's going to go 12 months from now if you turn down a couple of opportunities. So think about that when you're doing it. It's the first job, take the first job.
Yep, definitely. So Scott says soft skills are so important. It's not just coding we still need to talk to people.
You do. And I think that's the process of passing a tech interview, is the soft skill part of it.
Yeah.
And here's another thing I want to be very kind of a little bit cautious when I say this. There is so much negative talk about employers on tech Twitter and LinkedIn that you don't realize that you're painting yourself in a certain light, and so now do employers, I'm an employer, I try to be a good employer, but I'm sure someone out there that's worked for me doesn't like me, but I get that, where you think that the employers are all bad, and they're not. They're just trying to pay you to do a job. And so if you go into the interview process as being humble, respectful, eager to learn, and do those kind of things, and get that 1 to 2 years experience, then you can become where you're super in demand and you have options. When you're coming out the first time, you don't have options. But the number one reason people fail is because they're overly negative in an interview situation. I see so much bad advice, Kevin, just remember, you interview that company hard. You need to ask them
right.
What the boss makes. You need to know why is the one question that I just don't understand why people stick on this one is I want to know, why is this position open and what was the turnover like? And it's just what does it matter? I'm going to pay you for the job. The last 3 guys got fired.
Right,
okay.
Right.
I mean, so does that mean you don't want it? well, I might get fired too. Okay, as long as it's within a year, you're okay. You're just, but like, you know, you don't know the situation, the why they're looking for them. How long has it been open? Okay, we've been looking for 6 months. We can't find anybody. Does that mean you won't take it? I mean, like, truly, every developer's hired. It's really hard to find people. So I think a lot of those questions, if they're answered in the negative, would you turn it down? Now, as you get 5, 6, 10 years, you can be more choosy. But this advice is coming from a 30-year vet to someone who's trying to break in and like, yeah, you need to interview that company hard. You need to find out the bonus structure of the CEO. How much money does he make? According to how much you make. You should make within 82% of what he makes. Like, what? What kind of question is that? Like, why would I ever ask that question? Like, it's just so, I don't know. It's just, so it does, you come across like a malcontent and very kind of, not concerned about adding value to the company. You're more concerned about like other kind of issues. And so I want you to avoid those issues. The number one goal of an interview is to get an offer.
Right. Then you can decide whether you want to take it or not.
Can't decide. But if you put up all these barriers in the interview process, they're not going to get you an offer. Nah. Guess what? They're like, well, it doesn't matter what I make. Guess why? Because you're not working here. I mean, like that's the reality of the situation. Yep. And just because they're in a position of authority over you in the workplace doesn't make them bad or evil or anything like that. They're just trying to make a living doing what they're doing, and they need programmers to do it. So go in there and add value, and you always will get paid in this industry.
That's it. Let's do some questions then. So Lazy J says, is it too late to start learning front end from scratch in 2022?
It's never too late.
Definitely.
Why? I mean, 2022 doesn't mean, I don't know what the year has to do with anything other than
I think it's because like it's current. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe because it's currently now, and we've been doing front end development and web development now since the mid 90s, right? Let's say that. So we're 25 years plus into this thing now, and we're saying, is it too late? Like, no.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing that's where the question comes from. No, because a lot's changed since then, and the future looks just as bright as it did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if not better.
Well, we were talking about this other day. Dino, which is 1% of web development, just raised $21 million. I mean, like, so like they feel like, those VCs felt like, yeah, there's some meat on that bone in that web development space. There's some other place for people, so it's not too late. There's no replacement for web, even imagined, really. There's nothing that can replace it. That's
we've talked about this screen shift, right? That's the next kind of thing. But it's like that is kind of a minute away, and we think we've talked about this a lot, but we think like AR VR is kind of a next big screen shift. Yeah. That's but also needs development. And are your web dev skills and front end skills going to be used there? Yes, I think so. I don't think we're not going to replace HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and front end technologies overnight for sure. They're definitely going to carry over. Whether they ultimately get replaced, I don't know. But they're certainly going to be the first version of AR VR is going to be something to do with that.
It could be that, a combination of mobile development, maybe, depending on how they build out their platforms. Yeah. If you look at the previous generation of glasses, and you looked at HoloLens, for example, that was built in Unity. They've had a lot of problems rolling that thing out. So if you read the stories, there's a reason why. They fired a bunch of people over there. And then when you look at Meta, that's also been Unity development. And then you looked at the other glasses that came out post Google Glass. So these are a lot of things you've never heard of. IBM had a thing. They were simple glasses with a very simple UI, and those were Android apps typically. But you can build that stuff with web pages because guess what? The glasses are connected to some kind of backend server somewhere. And how does it communicate? It's going to communicate over HTTP at this point, or HTTP 3. Yeah. And then that is going to be a backend web service somewhere delivering information, whether that is a mobile, a game, or some kind of web page that runs in the class. The screen's going to shift. What we've always said about the screen shift is, hey, that gives you opportunity to say, I can do that. Yep. And they'll pay a premium for those skills. So I think that's what we see. But when you look at Meta, we do think the shift is coming, but it's taken them a minute. They really haven't made any like big announcements since they changed the name.
Yeah. I saw a thing the other day. They were talking about different VR and AR headsets, prototypes. He put out this video with all these prototypes talking about depth perception and all kinds of things he's talking about. It's super interesting stuff, but we haven't seen that evolve into a product yet that we can actually look at. I also think with that move there too, there's going to be an intermediate step too, right? It's not gonna happen overnight where we have native like applications running on these things. We're gonna have to port what we have now into that kind of environment. Same way what we did when we had mobile, right? We were running we had phones and mobile phones, but we had web browsers.
Phone gap.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's these intermediate solutions. So there's still that. It's going to be around for a minute. I mean, it's going to be around for a minute.
Yeah.
And mobile devices aren't going anywhere. Not in the next sort of 10 years until we see a full move to AR VR. You still carry around a screen in your pocket.
I think the big mover in this is going to be the same mover that's always driven this. It's going to be when Apple releases the glass. So when you look at the players involved, HoloLens, Microsoft, some issues there. Microsoft or Meta, Facebook, what are they doing? Like it's seemingly still targeted towards gaming. Are they going to be a break in there? Then there's the consumer device people. And that's where if Apple releases a glass, which all accounts is, this thing is around the corner, we could see a shift. Now, it was seismic when we released the iPhone, like how quickly people started building stuff for the iPhone. It was seismic. Now, however, 25 years later, we look at the developer survey, guess what they're still building? Websites, and mobile is shrinking because people are just building, I think, websites and taking them to a mobile browser. I do think there's a move away from the closed garden stores. They don't like that, so they're side loading these apps into the store using other technologies like a progressive web app or something like that. So I think that's kind of what's really going on in the marketplace. But they could get back to that walled garden when they release the glass and say, here's the VR approved Apple store, and so I think that's the race to do that, and you'll see a lot of people do that. So, but what I've always told people, Lazy J, learn what's in demand today, not what's in demand 10 years from now.
Yeah, if you've learned what's in demand today, then start looking at what's coming down the pipe.
So how long is it going to take you to learn front end? Up to a year. So do you think from 2022 to 2023, are we going to quit building websites? Absolutely not. And then once you're a coder and you can learn the next thing, when the screen shift happens, you can easily transfer your skills into that.
Perfectly positioned to pivot into it versus starting from scratch.
Yeah,
definitely. Exactly. It's a massive leg up for sure. Okay, let's see. King says, can you suggest me a few template sites to build a portfolio, please? If you want to buy a template, just go to ThemeForest.
ThemeForest.
There's tons on there. Go to ThemeForest, look up the HTML stuff. There's loads on there. A massive amount. And they're fairly cheap, too. Like we
can give you an affiliate link if you want us to.
We can. We were looking at one the other day, and it was like $9. And I'm like, oh, this for $9? I'm like, it feels like I'm stealing it. It was so cheap, and it was so good. It's like, wow, somebody put a lot of work into this.
So ThemeForest, look for HTML5 only, and I like Bootstrap, but like in general, you want to look for HTML5 type template. So be careful when you look at them. So you don't want to buy a WordPress template unless you're planning to put your portfolio there.
Exactly. There's a lot of WordPress stuff
problems.
There. Yeah.
Get a pure HTML5 template, and I think you'll be well.
And you can filter by that too on there. You can look at that, and it tells you what technologies it uses, so you can figure that out on there. It's good. That's ThemeForest. Or actually Envato as well. Same place, just ThemeForest is just more niche. He had a follow-up question too. King also said, how much can an entry-level Mone Stack developer earn monthly?
I just talk about annually. I think anybody doing web development in the U.S., I think the minimum salary is going to be around $40,000 annually. That's the minimum you can make. Typically, if you have stuff to show, you can make more than that, and that'd be entry level.
Yep, and then all the way up from there. Like if you all
the way up from there. So so make sure if you're going to learn Mone Stack, make sure you interview for Mone Stack jobs. Your job search will go quicker by talking to a firm that's already using React Node.
Yep. Forrest just says, hey, cheers from North Houston Woodlands area. A nice little tech scene popping up here amongst the new developers. That's cool. Make sure you network with them, Forrest. That's networking is key. Go to a meetup. Go meet some people.
So I'm North Houston, Texas. I'm assuming is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do think Texas is really great. I mean, there's Austin, Dallas, Houston, 3 large cities. All of them were pretty techy.
Austin for sure.
Yeah.
It's just it's a
Austin for
giant
sure.
tech city.
Very expensive to live in, but like it's more closer to San Fran than it is.
Yep.
The true tech capital of the world, Kernersville. So.
It's a cool city though. You can go to Austin and hang out, see the bats.
Yeah,
kind of cool. I've been there. Interesting city.
Eat some barbecue.
Yeah. Oh,
a brisket.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot.
Barbecue's different than what we talk about here. When we talk about barbecue, we're talking about pulled pork.
I had
we're talking about brisket.
Brisket. That's really good, and also beef ribs, which aren't super common like here. We don't get that in a lot of Texas barbecue. Has beef ribs. So good.
Yep.
So good. Yeah. Austin barbecue's really good. Like it's TV quality. Retro Rob says, I'm starting at 35 grand, but I don't care because at least I'm breaking. That's it. That's it, Rob. You have the attitude.
If more people would take your advice and listen to you, more people wouldn't have failures at breaking in, because a lot of people will go, I ain't working with 35K, and what they don't realize that this is a journey to 100K. It is a career. So let's say that I was making 35 at Walmart, and you expect me to go and like 35 as a developer? I'm not doing that. I'm like, yeah, but
next year, what you making?
Yeah, you're not making
35 again at Walmart.
Saying, hello, welcome to Walmart. I mean, like, you're not having that, Like, second, do you want to stock shelves? Like, is that what you want to do? I mean, that's okay if you want to aspire to be a store manager at a Walmart or a district manager. That's fine. I'm not hating on that. But the reason you're entering in code is because you don't like the current job that you're in, or you feel like you're limited in that job, or you want to do more. Typically, people move into coding because they want to use their brain instead of their back. We totally get that. There's guys that says, man, I don't know if I could keep framing houses, laying brick, running cable, being an electrician. I don't want to do that. Or if they're a teacher, they're like, I've maxed out my teaching career here at the local high school. I'm like up here, and in 3 years, I can eclipse that or double that. So like, listen to Retro Rob if you're not going to listen to me. Take any job that will pay you. Don't work for free. That's paying you to code, and then come back to me a year later and tell me what your prospects look like, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
At 35 can turn
I want to hear
into
from Robin his next job,
65 or 70 quickly inside of a year.
And this isn't a guess either. We literally see this from our bootcamp
happens
students.
All the time.
This is exactly the path we see. We see it just that's the path we see. The only exception to that is somebody who finds a job that they really like. Let's say they make 60 and they just stick with it because for some reason they really like the company or whatever it is, and they decide not to move. That's not to say that they couldn't. They just decide to stay because they just want to stay. They're like whatever pattern they're in and whatever company they're at, they love it and they're happy with whatever amount of money they're making, so they choose not to move. But those that do always make more. That's just how it works. Here's an idea for us. This is what we'll do this afternoon. Did we watch Top Gun? And I think it will inspire a lot of people to become pilots. You guys should make a movie about software engineering and do the same. Could you imagine what that looks like, though?
Goose and Maverick.
I haven't seen the new one, but I'll be Goose, sure. You can Maverick
so
it up.
Good. It is so good. Like it is crazy good.
Did you watch the new one?
Yeah, okay. I saw it in theaters. Like, it is crazy good. Like, it will inspire you. I mean, like it's definitely. I mean, Tom Cruise knows what he's doing anyway. He's always makes excellent movies. So like, it's really good. Is it believable? Yeah, it stretches a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not gonna run it for you. I mean, there's some like. Sure.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Because you're Tom Cruise, yes.
Hold on. They don't go Fast and Furious on it, though, do they? It's not
nothing like that.
Okay.
No, he's not like throwing a winch out on a falling bridge and swinging across the Grand Canyon in his Mustang. I mean, like that's not happening.
Okay, and then landing it, by the way, just in
exactly. Exactly. And keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not that unbelievable. Okay. What would the coding version of that look like, though? I can't imagine what that would look like. There's nothing as exciting as like we're not flying a plane. I don't know. Like imagine like writing that line of code and it compiles like first time. Is that the the climax of the movie? Like
I think you would have to be along the lines of like Squid Game-ish, where these 10 guys come in, like.
Oh, like a code to the death competition?
Exactly. Or like, these 10 guys have to like hack somebody who's trying to destroy the world with nuclear weapons. I don't know. Like it had to be something like that to make it interesting.
Right.
And then
because the job, the act of coding itself as a movie God, it'd be
Yeah,
boring.
exactly. I've never thought coding was a spectator sport to begin with. That's what I've told every boss that ever worked for me. Hey, man, I'll get back to you, but like, it's not a spectator sport. But hey, man, if we get Tom Cruise in it, he can make it cool. We know that, man. Like, he can make anything cool.
That's the thing. We throw Tom Cruise or Vin Diesel in it, we're golden.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get The Rock. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Rock can be the villain of the movie. As long as Tom Cruise has to run, 300 yards at, top end speed to plug in an Ethernet cable, like that's then we can win.
Yeah, so. The Wi-Fi's down. Quick, let's go networked.
It shows him running down the hallway.
Oh, I could see it now, like patch cable in hand. Like, it'd be amazing.
And we'd have the graphic of the information flowing in the cable that he has, and he's running faster than the speed of light. Yeah, and then he plugs it in, and the packet gets transferred. Coming.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, what a movie! What a movie! Yeah, we'll throw that together this afternoon. I think we can. I think we can work on that.
I've got Christopher Nolan on speed dial. I'm pitching it right now, so I'm gonna pitch him later.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Let's help Donnie Donkey here. It says I got no good projects that aren't weird.
Wow.
I don't quite know what that means, but what's a weird project? There's lots of like.
Yeah, tell us what your weird project is.
Yeah, because we tend to have the opposite of that, right? We come across lots of projects that people say, man, all projects are boring. Like, I'm not interested in them and they're boring, so I don't want to build them. Not necessarily
build a bug tracker, man. We can tell you that moves the needle. So
that's it. Look up bug tracker. Go watch our one project video on YouTube. Yeah. You can go look up bug tracker on YouTube and you can find that.
We do want to know your weird projects though, so we could give us a laugh if it's weird. They sound funny.
Unless it's really, really weird and not safe.
We won't put it on the screen, but like, you can try to get it through there if it's that weird, but like, we'll see.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, let's see what else we got here. We got time for a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's a bootcamp bug tracker question. Actually, while we're talking about bug tracker, bootcamp's mother project of bug tracker, is it a follow-along tutorial or is it individual project where the student builds the project on their own?
So yeah, it's follow along. So we don't give you code.
Yeah, to a certain extent it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to tell you. We have to teach you somehow.
Yeah.
We don't hand you just like, hey, build a bug tracker. Here's the modules and here's loosely what it does. So yeah, you have to follow along. But I can tell you that what we're teaching along the way is the pattern. So we're a little bit different than some of the other courses out there. You do have to type it in. So here's how our course is structured. So we do have a mothership project called a bug tracker, but there's two before that. There's a blog and then something we're going to call Contact Pro when it's released later in the year. And then before that, we also have some really simple ones like, hey, let's build Fizz Buzz in C#. Hey, let's build a mortgage calculator in C#. So you go from the beginning, learning the pattern, which is it's super, super intro, learn about the language, build a small one, a little bit larger, then a little bit bigger, then a little bit bigger, and then you get to the mothership. So by the time you've done it, you really do know the pattern. So if you jump straight to bug tracker and leap all of our other content, the bug tracker will seem like it's going 2,000 miles an hour.
Right.
Because we expect you to know what a service is by then. So our course is built around the fact that you've done the other projects to get up to speed on what we're doing. So, yep. Hope that helps. It works though, man.
Let's do Ryoku's question here. It says, probably unlikely. Yeah. What are the chances of a remote job as your first job? I feel like people would prefer newbies to be in the office.
I think it's both ways. We're seeing both.
We've seen more remote than ever, right? Obviously with the push from COVID and whatever, and we've definitely seen more, and that's stuck around till now at least.
Yeah, because people has revolted against, they like it and they're not going back. And so,
but he has a point here. I feel like people would prefer newbies in the office, and there's a reason behind that, right? You would prefer this too, right? From this, it seems like it's the better way to do it.
Yeah, if there's other people in the office that I can talk to. I do think building relationships, learning from other people is important. It's hard to do that on a random Zoom call on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Right.
So the office allows you to talk to someone and, ask more questions and get more feedback.
Yep.
And I think being in the office is a bonus. Yeah. I think when people say, I don't want to work remote, you got to realize that is largely skewed by senior devs that know absolutely what they're doing. They need very little direction. You just need to tell me what you want to build Give me the bullet list, man. Like I got it.
Right, I got it. Exactly.
Yeah. They're also in a company. They've been there for 5 years and they know the business inside and out. So they don't need direction. Right. If you're in a new company, a new business model, you're also a new coder on top of that. You're trying to understand, what is the business trying to achieve? What are we doing? And then what are the software solutions to that? And then if you're coming to an old code base, how is it structured? What technologies are they using? How you need questions answered. And it's hard to do that if you can only hit them up on Teams or Zoom.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have that, you'll have that kind of like kitchen moment, right? You'll be grabbing a coffee together and something will come up and you'll be like, oh yeah, okay. You have a conversation around something, you'll realize something that you weren't even asking a question, just came up in conversation, then you'll realize that thing that you would have never figured out otherwise.
Right. So
those little interactions are important.
Yep, I think so. The office isn't all that bad. But we've seen both positions.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it was unlikely these days either. I would say you're talking about it's a 50-50 kind of thing. It
kind of is right now.
Half and half at the minute. So, yeah.
It could change, but doesn't look like it is.
Yeah, right now it's still the same. We're like a couple years into this thing, and it's like it's still, it's still the same. So, yeah. Okay, cool. We're a little bit over, but let's.
Thanks for Nissan Swain for the super chat. Thank you a lot.
Yep, we appreciate it.
We'll see you next week, and keep coding, guys. See ya.
We'll catch you guys later.